Good morning. I'm introducing now, as a member of the Annual Association, the second round of international conferences on gifted people, is to introduce Mariel Mar Valdeita Gómez. She is technical engineer for public works. She's also a civil engineer. She's focusing trainer for the International Focusing Institute in New York. And you will probably think, what is she going to talk to us about? Well, she will talk to us about her experience as a vice president of Madrid Association Against Bullying and her amazing experience as mother to 2 gifted kids. Thank you for sharing. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Maria Dolores, for your invitation to these talks, to the association, to the NOL Association, for their amazing job they do, and they're so necessary. That is so necessary. And thank you to Carlota and Carmen, that are 2 gifted people who have suffered bullying and who have wanted to share their thoughts and their experiences with me, so we can help others. We can help other victims, other people who are suffering this bullying. Having said all this, I'm going to talk to you from my experience as a mother of 2 gifted kids and as vice president of the Madrid Association Against Bullying. I have 2 kids, Alejandro and Carmen, and since they were kids, we guessed that Alejandro was a gifted kid. He was very absent-minded. The way he was expressing himself, when you asked something, he would ask you, instead of saying, he would say, I can't remember, he could say, I can't identify the past. And when he said he broke something, he would say, holding to material things is getting apart from your soul. From school, they would say he would have physics, an A+, but 2 in geography, a C or a D or an E in geography, because he couldn't understand why did he have to remember the maps if there was Google Maps and there was a tourist information office everywhere. And we asked, is there a chance that we had a gifted students? No. Well, the school would say no, because he behaves really nicely, and gifted students usually are troublesome at school. Time carried on, and our experience with us was that he was a very loved kid. Everybody helped her, very respected kid. You could always see his colleagues at work looking in their rucksacks what he had lost. They would all help him. Whatever he had lost that day, the rest would find it. And Carmen is that smart girl, and she still is, with a strong temper, very organized, with social abilities. And if they had asked me who could have they chosen as a bully victim, I would have said Alejandro, definitely, but it wasn't that. The victim was Carmen. During the whole process of bullying that lasted for 7 years and that had a post-traumatic stress disorder, we didn't know that she was a gifted girl. I also wanted to focus this talk in going a bit further in how gifted kids suffer bullying, because I always hear that, oh, they're weird kids, they're difficult kids, they're different, they don't know how to defend themselves, they can't set the boundaries and the limits. I had that feeling of that is something very common in bullying, that re-victimization of the victim. We lose the focus what happens with the bullying side. What are their needs? Why are they going that way? What happens to those silent witnesses? What happens with the system that is not working? That's why, before I carry on telling you my experience, I would like to give an overview to some very basic elements of bullying. I will start a presentation that I will share with you. how gifted kids live bullying. And I will start it with this cartoon. I felt very touched when I saw it because I connected it very much with what happens when an environment is a living room in a house where everything is a square, as we can see, the floor, the ceiling, the walls, the furniture, the clothes, and somebody has a different initiative, as it can be to draw a snail, sparrow drawing. Oh, and what happens? It doesn't seem to be very well understood or very well perceived. I'll just leave it there. Just as some food for thought. What is bullying? Well, it's a verbal and non-verbal abuse that a kid or teenager suffers that others induce on this kid to obtain something, to threaten, to intimidate them, and that goes against their basic rights, their fundamental rights. And from here we can get the basic characteristics. Sometimes are not that clear. What is bullying? What isn't? Bullying is something deliberate. It's done intentionally, with the intention of hurting, of doing harm. It's not a joke. It's not an unwanted action. It's something done with full intention. It can be that the bullying side is not aware of the consequences, the severe consequences, the consequences that bullying can have. But it's constant. It's not an isolated behavior. It repeats. It goes over and over with time. And they progress in time. And it's abuse. It's a crime. It's not a joke. It's abuse. It's not a game. There's a lack of balance in power between a one and the all against this one. It's quite invisible bullying, actually. School bullying, especially psychological bullying, that happens more often in girls. That's completely invisible. The only thing we see in the scale is physical abuse. The rest, social block, social exclusion, threats, coercion, intimidation, they're very much hidden. So when I talk to them, when I talk to a school and they say, oh no, there's no bullying here. Well, you can say there's no bullying or you can't see it. So from our association, we put a special emphasis on the importance of having these preventive measures, the creation of a protocol of good behavior, good interaction, that kids also interact, and that they identify non-acceptable behaviors. That's why we insist so much in how to identify them, those protocols to identify them. What are the phases of this process? Well, bullying starts with a signal element effect. We're in a first stage when there are some critical incidents. Things happen, not necessarily always towards the same person, but there's something, that moment in which that signal element comes from the teachers. These kids, maybe because they're a bit distracted, they're being made fun of, maybe because they're extremely brilliant and excellent kids, because not all gifted kids are the same. Some of them have bad results at school, but there are some others that have amazing results, and they are envied by that kid that plays a violin, that has very good at sports, and at school with the results it's also. And the same as it happens when the glowworm and the snake, in that fable, the snake says, I want to eat you because I can't resist seeing you glow. This happens very often. This first phase has already happened, and we've already got this signaling element. Together with the stigmatization, we've already selected the victims. And in this first phase, the victim is a bit confused, doesn't know what's happening, what's going on. We go to a second phase in which, with the behavior, the bullying behaviors are more frequent. There is a repetition. And what happens? We start seeing the irrelevance of violence from adults. well, this is things that our kids do, it's always happened, it's just a joke. The victim has no protection at all, and the bully is stronger than ever because receiving no punishment and no work is being done. In this part, the victim starts somatizing and starts feeling fears. If it's not reconducted, though this bullying in the first two phases, it's very difficult to work with it. Those frequent behaviors progress in time, and bullying carries on, and the victim seems to be the scapegoat. Everybody goes against that victim. We go from that non-relevant violence to that basic mistake of creating a secondary victim. No, there's something in the victim that is making them being chosen. There is something in the victim that makes them feel abused when it's not happening, is misinterpreting the behavior of their colleagues. Here, the indicators that the victim says are quite clear and severe. We're talking about depression, anxiety, bullying, bulimia, anorexia, flashback, self-esteem problems, and there's still impunity for the bully. And we're still re-victimizing the victim, even officially. There are certain protocols, certain bullying protocols in certain administrations that specify victim, bullying victim, passive or active victim. Passive victims are kids that are very shy, set back, with self-esteem problems, not very assertive, without social abilities, with low aggressivity, different, and that's 85% more or less. And then there's 15% active victim. They respond aggressively, hyperactive kids, they like calling attention. So from our experience in Amakai, we can say that what is being considered the root of the bullying, that of the kid feeling bullied, are the consequences, the effects of that bullying. And there are the consequences, especially in this profile of kids, of special needs that are not being taken care of. And then we're in the last phase. In this phase, we get the system expels the victim and the family from the social and the school systems. We receive this bullying, the whole family, not just the kids. They like this issue, oh, moms are crazy, dads are violent, families are complex. They use it very often in a very negative way because we don't seem to understand what involves. And we just have them out of the school environment. If there's an activity being led, or some English lessons or religious lessons or sports activities, and some families end up having to move houses, cities or schools, and this is terrible for families. We're seeing couples breaking, families running out of money, parents they're being sick when bullies are impune. The institutions are not helping, and the damage on the victim are extremes. We're talking about very negative self-esteem, permanent changes in the personality, etc. What did I want to explain with this? Well, the phases of the process. There, I'd like to rescue that, something that I hear. They don't know how to set the boundaries, the limits, to defend themselves. Well, let's do an exercise of empathy. How can you set the limits? How can you defend yourself in this process? Please think about it. How do kids live this? Well, I'm going to read some of the episodes, some bullying episodes that some of these victims have shared. Some gifted victims. We were playing a football match. I was a goalkeeper, and they were telling me, "You fucking student, you go and study." They were spitting at me, throwing me chewing gum and other things. Teachers didn't do anything or say anything. I also remember a drama act they were just making fun of me. Hi, I don't have friends. My friends are books. There was a public and people were laughing, even teachers. Insults for wearing trousers and having good marks soon arrived. You fucking bully. You've got photos with Albert Einstein. You've lost virginity with your basketball book. Why don't you kill yourself as other gifted students do? I bet your parents won't even miss you. Things disappeared. Other testimonial things, books and notebooks disappeared. My coat, my rubber. And then it mysteriously appeared when people were saying, while the teacher was saying that I left them there. Once they hid my shoes and I had to walk barefoot until someone told me where they were. Other times they made deals. One day, suddenly, nobody knew me. And when I got closer to some of my colleagues and they would say, who are you? I hardly ever had a team to do, a group to do projects. I didn't have friends. I couldn't go to any external activities or birthdays. One day I thought it was going to be solved, and I was playing with some girls, but someone said that if I was playing, nobody else was going to play with me. I cried so much, so I decided going to the library. I realized that there was being left out. People were laughing at me, and then they were saying, oh, they were making fun of me because I was fat, and they were always hitting me. Sometimes it was with a ball, sometimes it was someone knocking me, and everybody said it was just things that happen at school accidents. And so after hearing some of these testimonials and reading them, how do they live it? What are their thoughts, their emotions? We need to think that they're kids with a mental age is higher to their real age. Their brain makes them have a more logical capacity, reasoning capacity, connecting capacity. Their brain is always working. They look at everything. They find all details. I remember that one of the episodes that my daughter suffered was that when she was going to have tests, or when she had to take homework, she would have her books or notebooks hidden, and she was really frustrated. And suddenly, the books appeared, and she did a total study of how the book would fall, how it would have appeared, and how it actually did. So she did a physical study. They go a step further always. They always question everything that they are told. Some things just don't fit completely. When we went to the specialists that checked with an MRI the post-traumatic syndrome that was created by this bullying, they explained to her this bullying with Snow White, when the witch said, mirror, mirror, is there anyone prettier than me? And this, yes, there is. But the witch didn't do it herself. It asked the hunter to do it. So because it was a threatening, it was not because she was threatening, because it was shining. That's why she wanted to go against her. And these specialists tried to explain to her why, because she was shining so much. The leader is not the one executing, is the one behind, the stepmother or the other person. And when we came out of that therapy session, I remember that Carmen told me, do you know, Mom, rather than the witch, I think it was Hansel and Gretel, because Snow White, everybody knows that the witch is evil, but the leader in school, they trick you with the house of sweets and candy, and once you're in, they put you in the oven. All the thoughts that you hear from them are shocking. Other thought from another girl that she was in religious education, she was listening how there was a good God, a almighty God, protective God, and then she couldn't understand how, if there was such a God, she was suffering so much. How did he allow this? I could also share some WhatsApp states of these kids that these kids had in their phones, as there could be, smile, your enemy should see this. When I'm sad, I look up in the sky and I think the sky is also alone and is still shining. There has to be hard days to see how good ones are. You don't become mature with age, but with damage. Whoever makes harm is as involved as those who help him. Whoever who cooperates with doing harm, a sentence from Martin Luther King. So with this overview to their thoughts and their emotions, they have a very high degree and sense of honesty, loyalty, justice, empathy, that for these kids are very important, but that are not a priority for the group. For them, a friend betraying them is terribly harmful. They don't understand it. They try to find the reason behind it. So I'll also share with you of how they feel. Intense, sentimental are words that I often hear about myself. And I agree fully. You're very intense. You put all your heart into things. Yes, I live everything very intensely, and that makes me magnify the feelings, the emotions, my living, for the good and for the bad. For the bad moments, this quality is suffering more than necessary, probably, and that's why you somatize very much what you've lived, and you stay in the past events that hurt really, and you talk over and over them, and it takes years to get out. If I wasn't that intense and sentimental, probably I wouldn't suffer this much. But for me, stop feeling would be even more painful, as if I was drugged, as I was sedated. I wouldn't be myself, because for me, feeling and thinking is what makes us human, what makes us feel alive. Feeling hurts, but not feeling, I think it's even more painful for some. Deep and intense feelings. What are their feelings? That body feeling, when they express that knot in their throat that doesn't allow them to swallow, even if they're hungry, because what they're living is unbearable. They cannot digest it. When they feel that pain in their back, that load, or that feeling in their stomach of something that is just going in, that is trying to hide, that is frightened, that feeling in their chest of not being able to breathe with the situation they're living. That reflection in the way of connecting, of illnesses, there are very many, slowing down their growth, their development, rashes, losing their voice, headaches, pains in their knees, in their legs. When they intensify at the beginning of the week, when they go back to school, after holidays, after Easter, after Christmas, all these indicators intensify themselves in these people, as well as not sleeping very well, big changes in their weight, changes in the performance, being isolated. And what do they need? When making this presentation, I also received the help of the testimonials of the people who collaborated, and their testimonials, I bring from their testimonials, is what they need is to be accepted, understood. They need love, to be valued. They need to understand. They need to be listened. They need empathy. They need to be protected, and they need justice. Acceptance and understanding. Many people have probably felt like me, out of place in this crazy world, and very often they have been hidden in the shadows. It's so important to find at least one person that will support you, that will understand you for being different, for thinking different. it has taken me a while to fit in a group, but when you try to talk, and when the nicest things you hear are terrible swear words or insults, or people telling you to kill yourself, that just makes you block yourself into yourself too, and being alone at school. I hardly ever felt that I could fit in, and very few people have understood me. They love you for their interest, to share your notes or to let them copy your exam. I don't tell this very often. Yes, I'm a gifted kid. I have an IQ of over 140, but I'm also a volunteer. I like playing the guitar, painting. I do many things, and I'm a good person. I think that's my main value. I hope that more people will value me from my heart and not so much from my brain. Let me show myself, let me show my whole person. When I was asked what's my main virtue, I used to say my intelligence, but I don't anymore. I've paid a heavy toll for this. I felt hated for this more than loved. Something that initially is good can become a curse. People who are out of the norm of what the society feels is normal, they usually push you down, they hate you, they label you as the intelligent one, they don't let you show you who you are, they don't let you bring out your other qualities. They also need love, and they need to be valued, they need to feel loved, not feeling loved, not feeling accepted. Even though you're trying really, really hard, that is very painful. I think somehow intellectually intelligent people are less loved. I try to work my mistake. I try to develop my emotional intelligence. I try to love, to feel loved, yes, desired, live and feel lived. I prefer to be loved than admired, but people don't want to see much further from your intelligent label, and you feel less loved. I love kisses and hugs. I love human warmth. They need to understand too. I could carry on telling you unfair things that I don't understand. Why did I have to leave when I had done nothing? Why nothing was done? Because were we told not to fight for justice? How can I understand that goes to court, that finds a person that feels that might help them, after 7 years of bullying, and this is something like when a dog barks at you, it will carry on barking. Come on, they don't understand it. It can't be understood. They need to be listened, and they need empathy, that empathic listening. They don't need those answers to calm them down. Don't worry, you'll see with the good weather, when they go to the pool, you will relax. That answer with giving them solutions. What you have to do is go to it with a different group, forget about them. Other groups will accept you, just forget about them. Or that interpretation answer, well, what has happened is that maybe you haven't understood, or maybe that person has had a bad day. Or that exploring answer, well, how can you have forgotten your books, but did you put them in your backpack? Where did you leave it? Or that answer judging, well, what you have to do is, come on, cope with it, learn to relate better with others, understand jokes better. They don't need any of that. They just need empathic answers. The answers saying, if this was happening to me, I would also feel enormous pain. That's exactly what they need. That empathy. Nobody worried at any time about what I felt. Nobody helps you. Not even the ones you consider they're your friends. Even if they know you're a bully. At school, they only felt it was important that I kept my marks. My suffering was not relevant to them. They need that protection. They read a letter in which they insult me, and the solution is to lock me up in jail for Harry Potter. And you can see who has signed it, and the total of the signers, it's more than 90% of the students. And our teacher says that probably they're all in love with me, that every person is different. And I with my ingenuity, I trusted teachers again. And the vice director said, "You're prettier, you're more smart." Well, what can we do? Well, you didn't help me. I was the victim, and they need justice. They don't understand general punishments. They don't understand when they're faced. They don't understand mediation. There is not a situation of a conflict, two sides giving their opinion and saying what they need. You cannot place the victim and the bully at the same level, because they're not equal. Justice was not done toward me. Nothing happened to her. It was unbelievable that people were not supporting me, that were not helping me. They were just quiet, or they sat by their side. Nobody helped me. Nobody was on my side when they knew that they were bullying me, or she was stealing from me, or when they said that I was only being used for copying. For those who believe that children's problems are non-relevant, I can assure you that the pain suffered by them breaks their heart. It's a quote from Sidney Whitson. I would like to show you now a heart. That's some of my presentation. In some of the slides you could see our logo from the association, and in the other there was a little heart. I don't know if you have noticed about it, but I'd like you to know why it's so relevant for me. A family came to the association with an 8-year-old, a very smart, very intelligent girl for what they told us and for what we've been seeing. And this girl was very angry. She didn't want to talk to us. She didn't want to tell us any episode, any incident. She didn't trust us. And I had the feeling that what she needed was not an interrogation, questions. She just needed something else. I felt I had to ask her, how did she feel? How was she afraid? How was she feeling? Was she sad? Was she angry? She said she felt very sad. And where did you find it? She said, in my heart. So I asked her, can you draw your heart? So she could set a distance between herself and that heart. And this is a very sad heart, a very sad hat too, also crying. And I took a teddy, and it was Elmo. And Elmo was empathizing with her, was listening to her from my voice. And at some point, Elmo was asking her, why are you so sad? And that's where she started telling Elmo all the bullying she has suffered. Elmo was reflecting her, was accompanying her. And at some point, I felt a change. Body change that is very representative when we're working with focusing. And I asked her, how is that heart feeling? It was not sad anymore, because it wasn't sad anymore. It wasn't alone anymore, because Elmo was there. And the next thing she drew was this. It was her with Elmo, and with a different expression, a different feeling. It was a beautiful experience, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. And reaching this point, the PowerPoint presentation has finished, but I also wanted to add a bit more, tell you a message of hope, share it with you, a message that these people have shared with me, that I'm going to read. After years of suffering, heard with words from people, I can finally say that I've come back from my ashes, and like the phoenix. I'm here I am, I'm strong, I'm proud of who I am, I'm brave, and I've got scars, but here I am. These scars help me remember how strong I am. I came out of that pain, and that I did never deserve. That makes me feel even prouder. Please don't stop being yourself. Don't stop thinking, feeling, acting according to your principles, according to what your heart and your mind tells you. Don't stop being who you are, because the world, don't stop being like this, like you are, because the world doesn't understand you. Don't feel ashamed. Don't hide. Don't stay in the shadow with fears. Be yourself always, at all times. Show yourselves as you are. And if they don't like it, they shouldn't look. We're proud to be different. It's painful, but we're proud. We're paying a high price very often, and it can hurt. But the best thing is to give it a step further and to feel that we can wake for all nightmares. Sometimes destiny makes you take a decision that you will be happy you have taken. And I would also share a text from our dear Carlota, a text written by Isabel Coixet when promoting one of her films, and said, I want to dedicate this film to those people who try to fit in a world that is not made for them. People who fight just to live. To those who are different, strange men and women that don't feel men or women, just people. I hope this baby, when it's born, will be able to live exactly as they want, free, without roles, without supposed normality, because the only thing that is not normal is to fuck someone else's life just because we don't understand or because they break your schemes. This is the message of hope with which I want to finish my presentation, and that need that I share from the association, Madrid Association Against Bullying, that evil silent rule that seems to be being used, that is being implemented in the cases of bullying, it should be transformed into a law to protect and to prevent bullying in schools. Transversal, cross-border educations, families, centers, kids, administration, justice, health administration, social administrations. And I would also like to make a request or make it an open invite, say when we were as kids sent to the thinking corner. Sometimes that invitation, that my invitation is that we should go to the corner, the feeling corner, not thinking but feeling corner. Feel the empathy towards these victims for being gifted kids, for being kids that are suffering bullying in a system that is not working, in a system that we seem to be faithful to, and a system in which the piece that is showing that is not working is eliminated from the system and is stigmatized. I share Einstein's sentence, crazy is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And I hope we start doing something different, because if we carry on as we are, I think these people will carry on suffering very, very much. Thank you very much.